The courtroom erupted in chaos as the judge's gavel slammed down, sentencing Mary Harlan to death for first-degree murder. At 62, the woman who had dedicated her life to saving abandoned children now faced lethal injection, her once kind eyes hollow with regret. But in the back row, her adopted sons, Graham, Ben, Chris, David, and Ethan, sat frozen, their worlds shattering not just from the verdict, but from the secrets that had led to this nightmare. Mary had always been the beacon in their stormy lives. Back in 1995, in the gritty underbelly of Detroit, Michigan, she stumbled upon 5 boys huddled in an abandoned warehouse, ages ranging from 6 to 12. Graham, the oldest at 12, had been the makeshift leader, scavenging dumpsters for food while protecting his brothers. Not by blood, but by circumstance. They were all runaways or orphans, discarded by a system that failed them. Mary, a social worker with a heart too big for her own good, couldn't walk away. She fought tooth and nail through bureaucracy, adopting all 5 despite warnings from friends about the burden. "They're family now," she'd say, her voice firm. The boys moved into her modest suburban home in Ann Arbor, where structure replaced survival mode. Mornings filled with homemade pancakes, evenings with homework under her watchful eye. Graham, with his sharp mind and protective streak, became her right hand. Ben, 2 years younger, was the quiet artist, sketching dreams he dared not voice. Chris, the middle one, bubbled with energy, always mediating squabbles. David and Ethan, the youngest, idolized their new siblings. As years passed, the bonds deepened, but so did the cracks. Graham threw himself into academics, earning a scholarship to the University of Michigan, majoring in psychology to understand the traumas they'd all buried. Ben followed suit, studying fine arts, his paintings a silent scream of unspoken feelings. Chris pursued business, ever the optimist, while David and Ethan chased engineering and law, respectively. Mary beamed at their successes, but she sensed the undercurrents, whispers of identity struggles in a world that demanded conformity. In 2010, when same-sex marriage debates raged across America, Graham came home one weekend, his face pale. "Mom, I need to talk." He sat her down in the living room, the same spot where she'd first gathered them all for family meetings. "I'm gay," he blurted, bracing for rejection. Mary's response? A fierce hug. "You're my son. Nothing changes that." But inside, Graham wrestled with guilt. He'd noticed Ben's lingering glances, the way their hands brushed during movie nights, igniting sparks he couldn't ignore. The family rallied, but society didn't. At university, Graham faced slurs in dorms, whispers in classes. He confided in Ben during late-night calls, their conversations evolving from brotherly advice to something deeper, more vulnerable. One summer evening in 2012, back home for a barbecue, Graham and Ben stole away to the backyard swing set they'd outgrown. Under the stars, Ben confessed, "I think I'm like you, Graham, and I think I love you." The kiss that followed was tentative, electric, a forbidden line crossed. They pulled back, hearts racing, aware of the taboo. Adopted brothers? What would Mary say? What would the world? They decided to keep it secret, navigating stolen moments amid family gatherings. Chris, sensing the shift, confronted them privately. "I get it," he said, revealing his own truth. "I'm gay too." The 3 formed a pact. Support each other, but hide from David and Ethan, who leaned conservative, influenced by college friends spewing traditional values. Tensions simmered as external pressures mounted. Mary's church community, once supportive, turned judgmental upon hearing rumors about her wayward sons. Whispers of unnatural influences in her home led to lost friendships. She defended them fiercely, but the isolation gnawed at her. Graham and Ben's relationship blossomed in shadows. Weekend getaways disguised as brotherly trips, whispered promises in the dead of night. Yet doubt crept in. Was this love or trauma bonding? Graham, studying Freudian theories, questioned if their shared past warped their affections. Ben's art reflected the turmoil. Canvases of intertwined figures, faces blurred in agony. One night, after a heated argument about coming clean to Mary, Ben stormed out, driving aimlessly. He returned hours later, eyes red. "We can't do this forever," he said. Graham agreed, but fear paralyzed them. By 2015, the family gathered for Mary's 60th birthday. Laughter filled the house, but undercurrents pulled strong. David, now engaged to a woman from his church, made offhand comments about family values. Ethan nodded along, his law studies reinforcing rigid ethics. Chris deflected with jokes, but Graham and Ben exchanged pained glances. That night, as dishes clattered in the sink, Mary pulled Graham aside. "Something's eating at you boys. Talk to me." He hesitated, the weight of secrecy crushing. Instead, he smiled faintly. "Just life, Mom." But life was about to explode. A few months later, Chris faced a brutal hate crime. Beaten outside a gay bar in Detroit by a group of thugs shouting slurs. Hospitalized with broken ribs, he called home in tears. Mary rushed to his side, her maternal fury ignited. "No one hurts my boys," she vowed. But as Chris recovered, the attackers were identified, locals with ties to extremist groups. One, the ringleader, harassed the family online, threatening more violence. Graham and Ben, galvanized, decided to come out fully. At a family dinner, they announced not just their orientations, but their relationship. Silence fell like a guillotine. David exploded. "This is sick. We're brothers." Ethan, torn, murmured about societal norms. Mary, stunned, absorbed the blow. "I love you all," she said finally. "But it's complicated." The room fractured, arguments erupted, doors slammed. David and Ethan distanced themselves, citing moral conflicts. Chris mediated, but the rift widened. Graham felt betrayed by his brother's rejection, Ben by the family's unraveling. Mary's health declined under stress. Sleepless nights pondering if her open heart had invited chaos. She confided in a friend, "Did I fail them by not seeing this coming?" As 2016 dawned, political tides shifted with Trump's election, emboldening bigots. The harassers escalated, vandalizing Mary's home with graffiti, "Fag enabler." Fear gripped the household. One fateful night, the ringleader broke in, armed and raging, targeting Chris. Mary, alone with him, grabbed a kitchen knife in defense. In the struggle, she stabbed him fatally. Police arrived to a bloody scene. Self-defense? Or premeditated? As prosecutors claimed, twisting her protective words into intent. The trial began, media frenzy labeling her a vigilante mother in a gay scandal. Graham and Ben testified, their relationship dissected publicly, fueling tabloid fire. David and Ethan, subpoenaed, wavered, loyalty versus beliefs. The verdict loomed, a death sentence in a state where capital punishment lingered for heinous crimes. The courtroom air thickened with anticipation as witnesses took the stand, each testimony peeling back layers of the Harlan family's fractured facade. Graham sat rigid, his hand subtly brushing Ben's under the bench, a silent anchor amid the storm. Mary, in her orange jumpsuit, looked smaller, her once vibrant spirit dimmed by months in custody. Flashbacks haunted Graham during the proceedings. He remembered the day after the coming-out dinner, when David cornered him in the garage. "How could you do this to Mom? To us?" David's voice cracked with anger, his fists clenched. Graham, defensive, shot back, "Love isn't a choice, David, but rejecting us is." The brothers, once inseparable, now stood divided by ideology. Ethan, more measured, tried bridging the gap via emails, quoting Bible verses about forgiveness while subtly condemning their lifestyle. Ben, reading them, felt a stab of betrayal. Ethan had been his confidant in art school, sharing late-night talks about dreams. Now those dreams were tainted. Chris's recovery was slow, both physically and emotionally. From his hospital bed, he'd whispered to Graham, "Don't let this break us." But the attack had unearthed deeper wounds. Chris admitted to casual hookups, seeking validation in a world that invalidated him. One partner, a closeted colleague, ghosted him post-assault, fearing association. I'm poisoned now, Chris lamented. Graham and Ben supported him, but their own relationships strained under scrutiny. Public outings meant hypervigilance, holding hands, a risk, kisses, forbidden in Ann Arbor's mixed crowds. Ben's art suffered. His gallery show flopped when critics labeled it derivative queer angst. He confided in Graham, "Am I just defined by this?" Graham, drawing from therapy sessions, replied, "No, but society tries to box us." Mary's defense hinged on self-defense, but prosecutors painted her as an overzealous protector, citing her outspoken advocacy for LGBTQ rights post-Chris's attack. She joined protests, her signs reading, "Protect our sons." One witness, a neighbor, testified to overhearing her say, "I'd kill to keep them safe." Twisted out of context, it damned her. Graham took the stand, voice steady despite trembling hands. "Mom saved us from the streets. She taught us love without conditions." But cross-examination veered personal. "And your relationship with Ben? Isn't that a condition she couldn't foresee?" Objections flew, but the seed of doubt was planted. Ben followed, his artist's eloquence shining. "We're not blood. Our love is real, and Mom accepted it." Yet, the jury's faces hardened, conservative Midwestern values clashing with progressive truths. Back home, the empty house echoed with ghosts. David and Ethan visited sporadically, their conversations laced with tension. David, influenced by his fiancée's evangelical family, pushed for reparative therapy. "It's not too late to change," he urged Chris. Ethan, studying law, debated ethics. "Society has rules for a reason." Graham exploded during one visit. "Rules that let hate crimes slide?" The argument escalated, David storming out, vowing distance. Ben, witnessing it, broke down later. "We lost our brothers because of us." Graham held him, whispering, "No, because of fear." As the trial dragged, media sensationalized, foster mom's gay sons spark deadly drama. Tabloids speculated on incestuous undertones, ignoring adoption facts. Graham and Ben faced doxing, their jobs threatened. Graham's counseling internship revoked over conflict of interest. Ben's teaching gig scrutinized. Chris, jobless from injuries, spiraled into depression, questioning his worth. "Maybe if I hadn't gone to that bar." Mary, from jail, wrote letters. "My boys stand tall. Love is your strength." But her words rang hollow amid mounting evidence. A key twist. The intruder's phone revealed texts planning more attacks, including targeting Graham and Ben. Defense argued premeditation on his part, but prosecutors countered with Mary's vigilante mindset. Internal conflicts peaked. Graham doubted their path. "What if we hadn't come out? Mom wouldn't be here." Ben, defiant, replied, "Then we'd be living lies." Their love, once a sanctuary, became a battleground. One night, in a cheap motel to escape paparazzi, they argued fiercely. "You're blaming us," Ben accused. Graham, exhausted, admitted, "Part of me does." Silence stretched, damage done. Chris mediated the next day. "We can't turn on each other." But seeds of resentment sprouted. David's testimony loomed. Torn between loyalty and beliefs, he confided in Ethan, "If I defend her fully, I'm endorsing their sin." Ethan, pragmatic, advised neutrality. On the stand, David faltered, "Mom's a good woman, but her choices enabled confusion." The courtroom gasped. Graham's eyes welled. Ben gripped his hand tighter. Ethan's turn. "She acted in fear, but was it justified?" Ambiguity hung heavy. Mary's health deteriorated. High blood pressure from stress. Visits were heart-wrenching. "I don't regret protecting you," she told Chris. To Graham and Ben, "Your love is beautiful. Don't let this dim it." But guilt consumed them. Graham sought therapy, unpacking childhood traumas, abandonment fostering attachment issues. "Is our love real or a crutch?" he pondered. Ben, through art, channeled pain into a series titled Fractured Family, Abstracts of Broken Chains. As closing arguments neared, a bombshell. Anonymous tips revealed the intruder had accomplices. One tied to a hate group David unknowingly donated to via his church. Confronted privately, David paled. "I didn't know." The revelation forced introspection. His values funding violence? He approached Graham post-court. "I'm sorry. I was wrong." Tentative reconciliation sparked, but Ethan remained skeptical. The jury deliberated, tension electric. Graham and Ben walked an arbor streets, reminiscing. "Remember our first kiss?" Ben asked. Graham smiled faintly. "The start of everything," but everything teetered on the edge. Deliberations stretched into days, the Harlan brothers pacing the courthouse halls like caged animals, each grappling with the moral quagmire their lives had become. Graham leaned against a cold wall, Ben's shoulder brushing his, a subtle defiance amid prying eyes. Chris wheeled nearby, his casts a reminder of the chain reaction leading here. The weight unearthed buried resentments. David, guilt-ridden from the hate group link, sought amends. Over coffee in a dingy diner, he confessed to Graham, "I funded monsters without knowing. How do I live with that?" Graham, softened but wary, replied, "By changing. Support us now." David nodded, but old habits died hard. His fiancée pressured him to pray the gay away. Ethan, ever the logician, debated internally. Law demanded justice, but family begged mercy. He drafted letters to Mary, unsent, questioning her impulsivity. "Was there another way?" he wrote. Ben's creativity surged amid chaos. He sketched courtroom scenes, capturing jurors' stoic faces, Mary's bowed head. One piece, Veiled Truths, depicted two shadows embracing him and Graham, against a backdrop of fractured glass. Galleries inquired, but he refused sales, not profiting from pain. Graham admired his resolve, but their intimacy suffered. Nights in separate beds, conversations clipped. "We need space," Graham suggested once, regretting it instantly as Ben's eyes flashed hurt. Chris intervened. "Fight for each other, not against." Society's backlash intensified. Protests outside the courthouse, supporters waving rainbow flags, opponents chanting justice for the victim. Media dubbed it the gay murder trial, reducing complexities to soundbites. Graham's former colleagues shunned him. Ben lost a commission. Chris, online, faced trolls. "Your lifestyle got your mom killed." He deactivated accounts, isolating further. Mary, via smuggled notes, urged unity. "Remember why I fought, for your freedom to love." Flashbacks to happier times tormented them. Summers at Lake Michigan, Mary teaching them to swim, laughter echoing. Now those memories soured by present strife. Graham confided in therapy. "I love Ben, but is it worth this destruction?" The therapist probed. "Love always costs. Question is, can you pay?" Ben, in his studio, painted furiously, colors bleeding like wounds. A pivotal moment. Ethan's testimony revisited in deliberations sparked leaks. He admitted under oath to doubting Mary's innocence initially, but evidence swayed him. "She protected us all." Jurors, per rumors, split along generational lines, older conservative, younger empathetic. David, outside, rallied supporters, his voice amplified. "My brothers deserve love without fear." His fiancée left him, unable to reconcile. "Choose them or me," she'd said. He chose family, a painful awakening. As hope flickered, betrayal struck. A distant relative, seeking spotlight, sold family photos to tabloids, including one of Graham and Ben kissing, stolen from Mary's album. Headlines screamed, "Incestuous affair fuels murder." Outrage boiled. Death threats poured in. Graham and Ben hunkered down, debating flight. "Run away?" Ben asked. Graham shook his head. "No, face it." Chris's resilience shone. Organizing a vigil, he spoke publicly. "Being gay isn't a crime. Hate is." Crowds grew, shifting public opinion. But internally, he battled self-doubt. "My attack started this." Graham reassured. "No, bigotry did." Mary's letters grew poignant. To David and Ethan, forgive yourselves. I chose this path. To the three, your truths are my pride. Her faith wavered. Once devout, now questioning a God allowing such suffering. Finally, the jury returned. Hearts pounded as the foreman read, not guilty on murder, but guilty on manslaughter. Gasps rippled. Mary collapsed in relief mixed with dread. 20 years, not death, but a life sentence essentially. Appeals loomed, but the family fractured anew. David hugged her through bars. We'll fight. Ethan promised legal aid. Chris wept openly. Post-verdict, healing began tentatively. Graham and Ben moved in together, a small apartment symbolizing commitment. But scars lingered, trust eroded by trials. Ben questioned, can we rebuild? Graham, resolute, we must. Society's mirror reflected harsh truths. Friends returned cautiously. Others vanished. The brothers reconvened at home, awkward silences punctuated by efforts. David shared his breakup. She couldn't accept you all. Ethan admitted biases. I was wrong to judge. Yet undercurrents persisted. Graham's job hunt faltered. Ben's art sold, but under controversial labels. Chris pursued activism, channeling pain into purpose. As months passed, Mary's incarceration weighed heavy. Visits revealed her frailty, weight loss, spirit dimmed. Live fully for me, she implored. The sons vowed, but guilt chained them. A turning point. Ben's exhibition, Redemption, drew crowds. Pieces chronicled their saga. Love amid ruins. Graham stood proud, their hands linked publicly. David attended, Ethan too, applause bridging gaps. But peace was fragile. Whispers of appeals, new evidence. A witness claiming the intruder unarmed, threatened reversal. Tension rebuilt, decisions looming. Fight or accept. The appeal process ignited like a slow-burning fuse, pulling the Harlan family back into the legal abyss just as fragile bonds began to mend. Graham stared at the court documents, his fingers tracing the words, potential retrial. While Ben paced the apartment, his artist's hands clenched in frustration. Chris, now mobile but scarred, slammed his fist on the table. Haven't we paid enough? New evidence surfaced. A neighbor's video showing the intruder entering unarmed, contradicting Mary's account. Prosecutors pushed for murder charges again, citing emotional overreaction. Defense countered with psychological experts on trauma responses. Mary, from prison, urged calm in letters. Truth will prevail, but doubt seeped in. Had she embellished details? Graham wrestled internally. Loyalty versus ethics. If she lied, he confided to Ben. Ben, loyal, snapped. She saved Chris. End of story. David dove into research, his engineering mind dissecting footage. It's inconclusive, he concluded, but his earlier donations haunted him. He donated to LGBTQ causes now, atonement in action. Ethan, leading the appeal, faced Bar Association scrutiny for biased representation. Family first, he declared, a shift from his former rigidity. Societal ripples widened. A documentary crew approached, promising nuanced portrayal. The brothers debated. Expose more or protect? Graham advocated yes. Our story can change minds. Ben hesitated. At what cost? They agreed, filming raw interviews. Chris bared his soul. Coming out cost me my body, but hiding cost my spirit. Graham and Ben shared their love's evolution, from brotherly to romantic, emphasizing consent and non-blood ties. Viewers polarized. Supporters praised bravery. Critics decried promotion of deviance. Personal tolls mounted. Graham's therapy intensified, unpacking imposter syndrome. Am I worthy of love after this chaos? Ben's paintings darkened, sales booming but soul draining. One night, exhausted, he admitted, sometimes I wonder if we're cursed. Graham pulled him close. No, just tested. Betrayal reared again. Ethan's firm pressured him off the case, citing conflicts. He quit, joining a pro bono LGBTQ legal aid. This is my redemption, he told David. The brothers united in strategy sessions, but old frictions surfaced. David questioned Graham and Ben's public affection in interviews. "Tone it down," Graham retorted. "Why hide who we are?" Mary's prison life hardened her. Riots, isolation, letters revealed despair. "I dream of our home." Visits were gut-wrenching. She aged rapidly. "Promise me you'll thrive," she begged. Highs amid lows. Ben's art won awards, proceeds funding Mary's defense. Chris launched a podcast on queer resilience, guests including survivors. Graham counseled at a gay youth center finding purpose. But the retrial loomed, evidence mounting against Mary. A key witness recanted, claiming coercion. Prosecutors accused tampering. Paranoia set in. Who could they trust? In a heated family call, accusations flew. Ethan blamed David's past ties. "Your donations fueled this hate." David fired back. "I've changed." Chris mediated. "Stop tearing us apart." Graham and Ben's relationship hit rock bottom. During filming, a producer probed, "Is your love worth your mother's freedom?" Ben stormed out. Graham followed. Argument ensued. "Maybe it isn't," Graham whispered, regretting instantly. Ben left for days, crashing with Chris. Solitude forced reflection. Love's price tag. Reconciliation came via Chris's intervention. "You've survived worse," he said. Ben returned. Embrace fierce. "We pay together." The retrial began. Media circus renewed. Testimonies revisited traumas. Mary took the stand, voice steady. "I'd do it again to protect my sons." Jury empathized, but law was unforgiving. Verdict: manslaughter upheld. Sentence reduced to 10 years with parole. Relief mixed with bitterness. Freedom tantalizingly close, but years lost. Post-trial, family dynamics shifted. David proposed to a new partner, accepting all. Ethan embraced advocacy. Chris thrived in activism. Graham and Ben married quietly, rings symbolizing endurance. "Through fire," Graham vowed. Yet shadows lingered. Mary's parole hearing approached, health failing. Decisions: push for early release or prepare for worst. Parole hearings brought a new battlefield. The board's stern faces scrutinizing Mary's remorse as if it could be quantified. Graham testified first, his voice echoing in the sterile room. "She's more than one act. She's our salvation." Ben followed, art portfolio in hand. Her love inspired this, beauty from pain. Preparation consumed them. Ethan coached, emphasized rehabilitation. David gathered character letters from reformed bigots he'd influenced. Chris shared victim impact. Ironically, as the protected, her actions saved lives, but internal demons roared. Graham questioned morality. Was killing justified? Therapy sessions delved deep. Vigilante justice versus systemic failure. Ben channeled into murals for queer centers, vibrant defiance. Society evolved slowly. Marriage equality solidified, but hate crimes persisted. The documentary aired, sparking debates. Empathy surged, but backlash too. Graham and Ben faced renewed threats, moving for safety. Family gatherings, now virtual with Mary, mixed joy and sorrow. She shared prison insights. "I've counseled inmates like you boys. Lost souls finding identity." Pride swelled, but guilt too. A twist. New DNA evidence suggested the intruder carried a concealed weapon. Missed initially. Ethan petitioned reopening, but bureaucracy stalled. Personal growth bloomed. David fathered a child, vowing inclusive upbringing. No judgments here. Ethan came out as ally, marching in prides. Chris's podcast boomed, interviewing Graham and Ben. Love in adversity. Listeners related, fostering community. But costs tallied. Ben's health faltered, anxiety attacks. Graham supported but strained. "We can't keep paying," Ben said. Graham countered. "Quitting means they win." Mary's hearing arrived. Board grilled. "Do you regret?" She, "Only the loss, not the protection." Supporters packed the room. Decision: parole granted. Elation erupted. Mary emerged frail, but eyes sparkled. Homecoming. Tears. Hugs. "My boys," she whispered. Adjustment challenged. Mary navigated freedom, shadows of prison lingering. Sons tiptoed, fearing triggers. Healing circles began, therapy family style. Confessions flowed. David's regrets, Ethan's biases, Chris's traumas, Graham and Ben's doubts. Love reaffirmed. Graham proposed renewal vows. Ben accepted. Yet, peace fragile. A hate group's lawsuit against the documentary threatened exposure. They stood united, ready to pay more. Reintegration wove a tapestry of triumphs and trials. Mary's presence reigniting the home's warmth even as old wounds ached. Family dinners returned. Laughter tentative at first, then genuine. Stories shared, bonds re-strengthened. Graham and Ben hosted, their marriage a quiet testament amid the noise. Mary dove into advocacy, speaking at events. Love demands sacrifice. Her story inspired bills for hate crime protections. But health battles persisted, cancer diagnosis, the true death sentence lurking. Sons rallied treatments, support. David coordinated care, Ethan legalities, Chris morale, Graham and Ben emotional anchors. Reflections deepened. Graham penned a memoir draft. From abandonment to acceptance, the costs of authenticity. Ben illustrated their collaboration healing. Societal shifts. Acceptance grew, but divides remained. They faced protests at events, resilience tested. Climax. Mary's remission party, toasts raised. To choices, she said. Years later, family expanded, adoptions, grandchildren. Legacies endured. But was Mary's ultimate sacrifice? Taking a life to save others, morally right? Or a dangerous precedent that justifies violence in the name of love?